body goes up to altitude, your body realizes, oh, I need to produce more red blood cells to meet the fact that the air is thinner. When you go up into the air, you go into altitude, there's not less oxygen, it's just sparse. And so your body is trying to pick up as much oxygen as possible, so you produce more red blood cells to catch that oxygen. So the thought now that we're trying to figure out is, if we actually gave an influx of oxygen in a longer period of time before the actual event, is it a more permanent change? So if you have a multiple event day, we're not worried about how much oxygen you have in your system. But right now, yeah, the cardinal rule is go up to altitude higher than where you're going to be performing, so that when you come back down to altitude, it's much easier.
Gotcha. And some of these, like, how common are some of the issues that you get people coming in to see therapy for?
Like, it's super common. People call us, and most of the common stuff is concussion, sports recovery, stroke, and they're finding us organically.
Now, one of the emails between me and Madison, I seen that it helped with someone who hearing recovery loss.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so how does that work?
Yeah, so let's talk about it. Sudden hearing loss is something that can happen to anyone at any time. There is no marker that says, oh, you're going to do this, you're going to get sudden hearing loss. People could have no extreme noise exposure and lose hearing in one complete ear. You just wake up that way. And most people think, oh, okay, let me just wait for a couple days, and they'll go to their ear, nose, and throat doctor, and they'll give them steroids to help out. Sometimes those steroids don't work. And this is because we need oxygen in our ears. Believe it or not, your inner ear is a very low vasculature area. And so we need the pressure from a chamber to get oxygen into the area to help heal your vestibular cochlear nerve to help you with hearing. And so how we see it is getting you into the chamber as soon as possible has the best chance of restoring your hearing. And we've had people that come in, have 0% hearing in one ear, and after 20 sessions are back to 100%.
Wow. And how does the infertility work?
So for fertility, it's the same situation. We're looking to make the body, the woman's body, the best vessel for implantation, right? And there are several ways that we can help with fertility, but the best way is to thicken the uterine lining. And we do that, of course, by giving the body enough resources, oxygen resources, to thicken that lining. As we get older, it's a lot harder for a woman to have a thick lining so that when the egg descends, it has a thicker, more viscous area to attach to the wall of the uterus. And so by giving the woman 10 to 15 sessions at a very, very timed pace, we can actually thicken the uterine lining more than 20%. And so it's a big deal, especially if you're deemed infertile, to correct that issue and increase the amount of vasculature in that area. It's going to help with the development of the baby. I'll tell you, I didn't think that I was going to have a life like this, where people would be coming in with like no hearing in their ear and then I'm fixing it. Or a woman coming in saying like, I've been told I cannot have children, and then we help her to have that child. It's amazing work. It's not what I would have been doing at all as law enforcement. I would have been getting yelled at and stopping fights and doing all those things. And I don't know how much of a difference that I really would have made because of all the obstacles that I would have had to face. But here, people come in, and even if they're just coming in for general wellness, they change when they leave us. And it's been really fulfilling.
And it's a lot less stressful as far as the environment goes.
Yeah.
I like that you said, when people come in, you want to make them feel like their family, because too often we go to the doctor and we're going to wait on that hefty doctor's bill, and we're not even going to get treated the way we think we should be getting treated, in the sense of hospitality and curing of our ailments.
Right.
So,
and it's remarkable to me the amount of people who actually don't get real care in the system.
And still owe a ton of money.
Right. And we spend the most money on our healthcare system, and we are terrible across the
Yeah.
board. The amount of money we spend per person does not translate into healing. And so it's remarkable to me when they come in, they've gone through all of these different systems, and then we put them in the chamber twice and things change.
Speaking of that, because there's so much distrust, especially as of late with the pharmaceutical industry and our healthcare system, the word holistic it's been changing a little bit, but that word has had a little bit of a stigma over the course of a few years back, kind of like woo woo washy woo, kind of
Yeah,
mystical stuff. But
for sure.
especially with COVID now, you see, and the mistrust of pharmaceutical companies, you see a lot of people looking for alternatives like holistic medicines. How has COVID affected your business and your practice, and how all that operation goes?
We have, since the beginning of our operation, we have doubled every year in our gross, and that did not change in the year of COVID. What did change for us, which was really hard for everyone with the business, is that my first job is to keep a safe work environment for my employees, both safe emotionally and physically. And with the virus, we just didn't know. We didn't know how people contracted it. You remember people were walking around with spacesuits. You didn't leave your house. If you had groceries that were delivered, you were wiping them down. I remember people not wanting to order spinach because they would have had to wipe down each leaf. It got really crazy, right? So for us, the medical facility, we had people that we couldn't shut down. We didn't shut down. But quickly, what was really clear for us was that the medical industry didn't have an answer for these COVID patients. The answer was come to the hospital only when you can't breathe, which we now know is way too late, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we knew really early on that if they were able to get oxygen, it would definitely help. Now, a lot of laws stop me from helping people who are actively infected with the virus, but we have had a lot of people that are looking for pulmonary recovery that are coming to us with a lot of success.
Because the beginning, they were putting people on ventilators and they were dying.
Yeah, I mean the ventilator percentage was and is terrible.
Yeah.
If you get on a vent, your percentage of getting off that vent alive is less than 30%. And so anything we could do to make sure that didn't happen, anything.
And what are some of the kind of newer things that you guys have planned to be kind of helping the community and in that nature?
We're going into a $9 million investment round to vertically integrate this industry.
How
One
much?
of the 9 million.
Nine. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little serious. And we're in the middle of it. We've already started raising some money. And what I want to do is I want to explore more. I want to see what happens when we push the bounds of this treatment. What happens when we apply it to all of these conditions? And right now we're in a place where our treatments aren't being collected in data. So we don't know all of our successes around the country. I would like to try and link up our centers across the country, all these different centers around the country, so that we know what protocol is happening. So that's one thing we're looking into, is how do we link them with technology so that we can keep all of our data together. So as a nation, we figure out what are we doing to move hyperbarics forward. There are other countries like Israel and Russia who are working more cohesively, and we're seeing a lot of advances in hyperbarics from those countries. And so I'm interested in seeing how we can link ourselves together so that we can start linking all of our successes and understand our data together. So that's one thing we're working through. But a general integration of this profession looks multifaceted. It's controlling not just the hyperbaric care itself, but also the oxygen and how it's produced and how it's delivered, as well as the chambers and how they're made. And so we are attacking all of those. So we are making chambers, we are manufacturing chambers. We have started and acquired an oxygen business. And we are also still providing the top care. of hyperbaric medicine. And so we're very excited to look at what it means to see this in all aspects to move it forward.
Now I see on your website the pods or the chambers rather.
Yes.
Um, but I also seen like pictures with helmets, and so there's are there different types of chambers, and how does each one
Yeah.
kind of work for what your the goal is?
Sure. So what you're seeing on our website is our chambers that we have right now. They will not be the ones that we're actually producing. These are just ones that we bought from a manufacturer, but they're great vessels. They have the ability to dive or simulate a dive between 10 feet and 66 feet. And there's so much healing in between that. And depending on what the condition is, we apply the certain amount of pressure. Um, Different chambers, they all do the same thing. They apply pressure and they give you oxygen. Now, the FDA has only cleared a certain many of these chambers. And so making sure that if you're listening to us and you're not in the area to come and see us, making sure that you get to a facility that has an FDA cleared chamber is really important for your safety. And so there definitely is different chambers all out there. There's some that people see that are clear tubes. That's the one that Michael Jackson was in. And that's predominantly used for insurance-based facilities, which we will be changing to. And then they have chambers the size of a room, which are called multi-place chambers, and we'll have one of those in each of our locations also. So they're all different, but they do the same thing. They apply pressure and give you oxygen.
Now, would so your whole body has to be in there to get the full treatment, not just like where you breathe in oxygen.
Yeah, if we had a pressure differential between appendages, it would not be good.
Okay, okay.
I'm just gonna put that right there.
Gotcha. What when you actually started getting into this field, did you have any mentors, or I know you said, you kind of hit the books and started to educate yourself, but did you have any mentors and people who guided you along the way?
Yeah, very quickly I reached out to Dr. Scott Scher. We became very close friends. And him and I, he's a wanderer like me. We're explorers. We're interested in pushing things forward and pushing the boundaries. And he's a physician. And so he, of course, has a more classical medical degree. And with that, him and I have always theorized on different things to do. And we've worked on protocols together. And we continue to have a really great relationship. He's on my medical board of advisors. And so he's been a great mentor to me, but everything I know about running a business actually came from the time when I was working in my grandparents' liquor store here in the Bay Area. They came to California in the Great Black Migration. So
From the South?
we, yeah, from the South, from Alabama and Mississippi. And they came here in the early 50s for a better life, like hundreds of thousands of African Americans post-industrial of the South. And so in coming here, they worked on VTA buses, and they also built a lot of the planes and trains that were still in production here. And they saved their money and they bought a barber shop, which they managed. And then it turned into 5 barber shops, and they sold all 5 and bought this liquor store that is actually still standing in Berkeley, California today. And when I was born in the 80s, they had me coming to liquor store from the age of 4 in for about 10 years until I was 14. And everything I knew about how you take care of people, even in the small time we had them at the liquor store, I knew people's orders before they would walk up. I knew that like somebody wanted like a Marlboro single and like a small thing of like ballerina, right? And so you start to learn about everything with people. And we swept the floors at night just to open in the morning and sweep the same floors, because that's what you do to take care of your place.
They took
And
pride in
so
your
that was,
work.
yeah, and that was ingrained in me very, very early. And it's those little pieces of what I learned in that time, and also how we treated people on the ambulance. My ambulance company, that's based not far from here, a lot of the reason why they are very successful is because, again, like they're called Royal Ambulance because they treat people royally. And so everything I learned from them, I cut my teeth there, as in the colloquialism. I learned everything I know from them. And so those were the big drivers. And then professionally in hyperbarics, it's been Dr. Scott.
Nice. And it's funny that you say about, kind of Western medicine. working with different holistic